face does things.
Hey, welcome to Hometown History. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Domi.
And tonight we are at the Horn Farm. We are going to present for about 25 minutes on the agricultural history of York County. So a little tiny bit about me. I am a high school history teacher full-time, but I also run a website with Jim McCord called Witnessing York and a local history blog called Wandering in York County.
And I'm an archivist, a librarian, and a Civil War reenactor in my spare time.
If you want to watch more of our videos, go to YouTube. We have now 2 seasons with lots of different content to choose from.
Very exciting.
So tonight's episode is called Hellam's Horn Farm, Growing the Three Sisters, Imperial Apples, and George's Favorite Pawpaw Dessert. So our goal is by the end of this, you know more about these 3 crops and how they were grown in harmony in York County, but then also how these 3 crop rotation or different crop combos symbolize American and York County values. So for example, the 3 sisters, we're going to go into Native Americans, community gardens, collaboration. The Imperial apple will focus on scientific tinkering and innovation. Yes. And then finally, the pawpaws and how we have self-sufficiency and the idea of foraging in the area.
And we're at the perfect place to talk about all these things. We're at the Horn Farm in Hellam in York. And the Horn Farm does more than just preserve our agricultural history, it practices it. So they have a full slate of living history programming. Unfortunately, their main building got struck by lightning in October 2021, and it burnt a large portion of the house. But if you read their website, it says, "Let the ashes of this tragedy be fertile soil for our future growth and resilient community," which I think is a great message. Yeah, they haven't slowed down at all.
And we're going to talk a lot more about them tonight. That'll be our common thread throughout our entire presentation.
Yes.
So let's get started with the first farmers in York County, which were the Native Americans, the Susquehannocks. So they ate a lot from foraging and hunting. So they would hunt elk, bears, other wild animals. They would trap shad and eels from the Susquehanna River. And then they would find nuts and berries and greens that were growing around just, randomly, naturally from our area. But they were also farmers. So at the time, Pennsylvania was mostly covered in forest and trees. I mean, Penn's Woods.
Penn's Woods,
right?
Yes, William Penn.
But they were able to take down a lot of those trees, not from the machinery that we have today. They didn't have the tools. So what they did was extremely creative. They would take a stone axe and they would cut around the bark of the tree, around their height.
Sure.
And they would take, like I said, the stone axe. This was called girdling. Girdling. And this stopped the tree from being able to suck water up to the limbs and the leaves. And so because of that, it died. It became dehydrated. It couldn't grow. And so, I mean, this was an investment. It's not like this is going to happen fast.
Right. But they were smart to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like a bulldozer, going through, but it was slow and it was organic because then the tree would fall over. They could use that for their canoes, which there's a great episode on bridges.
Yes, our last episode.
On YouTube. And they eventually, after they took away enough of the trees, they were able to plant in the ground there. And so it's cool how they planted. They would go around with sticks and they would poke holes in the ground and they would plant their seeds and then it would grow. And it wasn't like in the strict rows that we have now with a lot of European farming heritage. It was more in like circles and clusters. And so walking upon a Native American bed, you might not even know what it was. It might just look like it's naturally growing. It's not like you think of the typical farm, but just patches.
Right, and that takes us to the 3 sisters. So that's corn, beans, and squash, or what we call pumpkins today. The Susquehannocks planted all of these together. So the corn would grow with full sunlight, and the bean vines crawled up supporting the corn stalks to get light. That took nitrogen from the air, and it fixed in the soil, benefiting all of the crops. Large leaves of the sprawling pumpkin vines didn't compete with the corn and bean plants for sunlight. And then the pumpkin foliage shaded the soil, which retained water, and it stopped the weeds. And then they would take the seeds from their harvest, and they would store them for the next year. They used all of the corn kernels that could be used for cornbread. And then, you could make popcorn, which is a tasty snack. So
that's fun.
What snacks do you like?
Favorite snack? I am, sweet tooth for ice cream at night. My guilty pleasure.
I usually eat popcorn every evening.
Really?
I had adult braces and I couldn't eat popcorn for 2.5 years. So and that was the first thing I ate as soon as it... And then from having braces, the cold hurts my teeth. So I can't have the cold.
Butter or no butter?
Lots of butter, all the butter. I need the butter. But that takes us into the fact that this planting practice helped the soil. So when the soil was depleted, the people would move to new hunting and gathering areas, which gave them new soil to work with. So the surrounding forest would come in and it would reclaim the fields that they planted in, and that would heal the damaged and the wounded soil.
Just regrew over. It was like no one was even there.
Yeah, so the Susquehannocks and the other people that lived there, they farmed in harmony with nature, and there was not a lot of them. So it was smaller numbers, and all of the three crops that they grew helped each other.
Very cool. Today, the three sisters are still grown. When I was doing my doctoral research on agricultural history, so I had a lot of fun with tonight's episode.
She's the expert here tonight.
We were at the Horn Farm, and we are around 7:45. We're going to have our extra tonight with Zach Rootson. And he's watching us right now.
We had
and
trouble with his name.
It will be corrected. And he showed me a plot of the three sisters that are grown. And so part of my research is looking more at contemporary homesteaders, people who are growing food today, because I found it fascinating that you can go to the store down the road and find ethically sourced eggs that are organic and good for you and the environment, but yet people own chickens.
Right.
Like, in backyards.
Yep.
I mean, I was interested in having chickens, and why when I can just go to the store and buy fresh eggs?
Yeah, there's something about going out and getting your fresh eggs in the morning and, raising the chicken yourself and feeding them.
Yep.
And
Well, and that's so with my research, which my dissertation, if you want to read it, it's in the York County Library Systems at Martin Library.
Cool.
It's called The Garden and the Machine. But I found that people who grow food today do so for three reasons. The first is, like you said, that connection to tradition. You feel like you're doing something like your heritage, where your roots are, what your grandparents and great-grandparents did. But another interesting thing was a lot of people who grow food today are more white collar.
Okay.
Like bankers and like administrative assistants and teachers and engineers and people in the tech industry.
Sure.
They like that juxtaposition of being at their computer all the time and working intellectually with their mind, and then going home, throwing on their yoga pants, tank tops, and their hats, digging in the dirt, and not having to think about this like fast modern world and just doing something with their hands.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the pandemic helped move that along too, because everyone I know during the pandemic had a garden.
Yeah, and that we did not plan this, but yes, that is the third reason why homesteading is so popular, is this idea of empowerment. When you feel like you're out of control, people then turn to growing their own food.
Right,
so
it makes sense.
We see uptakes during the civil rights movement, during 9/11, during the 2008 housing crisis, and then most recently with COVID. More people were growing more food to feel like they had some type of stability in their lives.
Sure.
So thinking about the original settlers.
So a lot of people have this idea that the original settlers were these super rugged people. So think of the German, the English, and the Scots-Irish settlers. And if you want to learn more about this, we happen to have a 7-minute short video that we just filmed 2 nights ago. And we really go in depth on this topic. They were really self-sufficient, small-scale family farmers. American heroes such as Thomas Jefferson wrote in his notes on Virginia in 1785 that while we have land to labor then, let us never wish to see our citizens occupied at a workbench. So he really had this idea of the yeoman farmer being out in their fields, growing their own food. And that rhetoric depicts the farmer as society's most independent members. And in reality, we're a lot more communal than that. We're not doing it all on our own.
Yeah. So here's our 7-minute short. Go and watch it.
For once, my facial expression is subdued, and Jamie's the one that's really excited.
So I have some pictures here of Lewis Miller. So he was a painter in the 1800s, and he went around York County and just painted the average person, not just the aristocracy or, like the people in charge up top. It was like the average people. So here on the left is a picture of him farming with 3 brothers, 3 bachelors who lived on their own. And I love this image because it shows you them planting strawberries together. And the man in the front is playing a flute,
and there's a
dog running, and
I
sheep.
love that.
It's just very idyllic, but again, it shows you that communal aspect of York County.
Right.
And then over on the right, that is a 1801 brew house of people brewing their own beer. And then who's all there?
Right. Yeah, it's the whole community. The ladies are there. The kids are running around.
Everyone's showing up saying, all right, let's celebrate your awesome beer.
Absolutely. It's not that much different from today.
Speaking of today, So here is a picture of the Horn Farm, and that is the community plot in the background. If you would like to come here and grow your own food, you can do so for $55 for a 20 by 20 lot. I don't know if they have any more available this year. It fills up very fast.
It looks full.
Yeah, when you rent a space, it's from April to October. But if you're going to come here, it is an expectation that you are ecologically friendly. So you are expected to not use fertilizers from chemical origins or insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, any of those things. It's about living in harmony with nature. So you're expected to figure out where the pest is coming from and then deter it, be proactive in that way. So today, again, farming is way more communal about helping each other.
Right.
And then here we have a picture of Zach Rootston, and will be speaking about Hollow Creek Farm here in a few minutes. All right, so Newberrytown, grow gardens in Newberrytown?
Yeah, I think all of my neighbors have gardens. I have a garden in my backyard that I modeled after a World War II victory garden.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm really into reenacting Civil War or World War II, and I really got into World War II gardening. So I like the idea of growing my own food, growing my own flowers for cutting, that kind of thing. Yeah,
that's cool.
I like it.
Last year we tried growing green beans because I love canned green beans, and the deer in Newberrytown.
You had a critter
sucked.
problem.
The deer like annihilated my green beans.
I know. I remember.
Yeah, I'm like angry at these deer. But I did grow a lot of tomatoes, so we made our own salsa, and I planted asparagus last year too. So hopefully I get some.
I did get to eat some of your salsa. It was very good.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. So speaking of origins in York County, the York Imperial apple.
Yeah, did you guys know that we had our own apple in York County? So I use this in trivia a lot. So I host trivia at the Redland Community Library, and we try and always do local history if we can. And I always stump people on what apple came from York County. So the Imperial apple came in the 1820s, so 200 years ago. So a group of schoolboys were looking for a snack, and they were like, what's better than a fresh apple? But the problem was that the apples weren't in season, so they had to go digging around, and they were looking at the base of a tree, and they were on Mr. Johnson's farm in the borough of York, and buried under the leaves, they found an apple that hadn't gone bad yet. And that's like a really rare thing that you're going to find an apple that hasn't rotted yet. So the boys' treasure inspired Mr. Johnson to gift the specimens to Jonathan Jessup, a nurseryman, so he could graft the stems of the apples for a new hybrid, and that became the York Imperial apple. And guess where his farm was?
Well, I know the answer already, but
if you don't know the answer, surprise, it's
Apple Hill.
So the Wellspan campus on George Street, Apple Hill, is named for the apple, literally the Apple Hill.
Yeah, York Imperial apple. And there you can see a picture of it. So this apple was known for its oblong shape. A lot of people liked how it was sturdy and resilient against frost because, again, the original, before it became a hybrid, when it was grafted, it came from this apple that had adapted to the environment, which is really cool. But now this oblong shape made it difficult for major processing.
Right, mass production.
Exactly. It wasn't this perfect spherical shape that was easily cut apart with a machine. Okay, so moving on to this York Imperial apple, let's talk a little bit more about it. So it dominated the apple market not only in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, but also West Virginia into the 20th century. And this allowed York County to receive international fame. June Lloyd, who's a local historian, points out that it could have been from John Klein, Hellam Township, where this apple came from. So I'm not sure if you're Team Jessup or Team Klein.
I'm just Team Apple.
We could start a feud learning about York County history, where the apple came from. And today, York County ranks 5th in the Commonwealth for apple production.
That's awesome.
Right? I know.
Yeah, I didn't know that before this.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there are 67 counties in Pennsylvania. And so to be 5th, we're up there pretty high.
Yeah.
And I thought that the York Imperial apple showcased York County's ability to be innovative, to tinker with science, to see an opportunity and launch at it and create an apple that really changed the United States.
I mean, how many people can say that they invented a new apple?
Right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's pretty cool. A lot of things happen in York County that, we're just not aware of on a daily basis.
Right.
So
That's why you're watching us.
Yeah, we're teaching you about all these amazing things that happen in York County.
So one thing that happened then before the apple was the Horn Farm.
Yeah, so to take it back to William Penn, so again, William Penn, Penn's Woods, Pennsylvania, he granted several warrants for the land. So the western part was in 1747, and the eastern part can be traced back to the Blunston license. That's 200 acres issued in 1736. So how cool would it be to trace your plot of land back to William Penn?
Man, that'd be baller.
I know. My house was built on the town dump, so it's not as exciting.
I would have a deed. I would have to have something like a deed framed in my house. Like
it would be really cool. I mean, it's the ultimate Pennsylvania history brag.
Yeah.
So
I would brag. I would not be humble about it either.
No, I would brag. There's probably someone in Newberrytown that's like, I have that paper right now.
So let's go through then how this farm came to be.
Sure.
So if you want to learn more, all this information came from Witnessing New York. WitnessingNewYork.com has all the information on, it sounds like I'm such a plug, but I'm like, more information on WitnessingNewYork.com. No, but really though, if you want to learn more, there is the entire history about this farm here. So here's the rundown. William Penn, after he granted the land, it became a part of Michael Rudy. So Michael Rudy was a farmer in Hellam Township, and he was listed as owning this piece of land in 1783 for, guess how many pounds?
479.
Oh my gosh, you knew it exactly right.
It's like it was on the paper in front of me.
Yep. And eventually his nephew got it, Samuel Ruby, which this image right here, this shows you what the survey of his farm would have looked like in 1830.
It's a nice farm.
It's beautiful. And he was the one who would be known for building the brick house that we had, the iconic brick house of the Horn Farm.
That's what everyone knows about the Horn Farm.
Yeah, and that was built in 1840, and it stayed within the Ruby family until a man named D.E. Horn purchased it. He was into making like livestock feed, so he processed it, and he also sold it, so he was considered a vendor, and he had it in the family for not very long. He had it for about 40 years. He ended up passing away in 1964. His wife, Hattie, and then their two daughters are the ones who donated the farm in the 1980s. So thank you, ladies, for donating this gorgeous piece of land for us to enjoy now.
Yes, we're so glad you did. And the Horn Farm has been through so much in its history. So less than 20 years after the Horns donated the land to York County, they almost lost it. So the threat to the garden came from Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Of all things, I know. Harley ended up building on its Springettsbury Township campus. And then the concerned citizens of Hellam Township and York County had seen enough, and they formed the nonprofit that we see today, the Horn Farm Center, to make the 186-acre farm a place of agricultural education, and that happened in 2004. So thank goodness that they did. I mean, it's great to see concerned citizens from the county actually coming together and doing something.
Yeah, right.
You know,
and doing something.
Yeah, actually doing something and preserving it for future generations.
I feel like sometimes York County is like, what do we ever really do? Here's an example.
We've done a lot. Yeah, I mean, 186 acres of farmland, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want. But unfortunately, they saw more strife. So about a year later, a fire damaged the barn at the farm. And then in October 2021, lightning hit the main building. So that main brick building that we were talking about burned. So currently the staff at the Horn Farm is working out of a trailer that was donated, and they rehabilitated that. That's where they're working. All of the debris from the fire has been picked up. But the building and the reconstruction hasn't started yet. The building is currently gutted and stripped back to the subfloor and the framing. But, I mean, these people are amazing. The educational programming hasn't slowed down at all.
Still going
They
on.
have classes. I mean, people are here farming on their own little plots that they have. I mean, it's amazing. And they're still having festivals. So it's full steam ahead, even with all the strife that's been happening here. I mean, if they can survive multiple fires, you know, the farm changing hands, Harley-Davidson trying to come in.
Well, and speaking of land kind of takeover, so there is a current threat for the Horn Farm. There is a truck stop that they're thinking of putting in a relatively close location. Here is a picture of it so you can see where they're thinking of building the project. So we are filming at this bend in the road above 30. There you can see the top right corner. There's an orangish section. That's where the Horn Farm is. They're thinking about building the gas station and truck stop over here, and what they're primarily worried about is flooding. This is going to be an asphalt jungle with 96 truck places and 75 car spots.
It's a lot.
Lots of asphalt, and if there isn't proper sewer runoff for the stormwater runoff, then they're not sure what's going to happen. So we'll see what the proposal happens. If you're interested in helping the Horn Farm, of course, they are always accepting donations. You can go to their website and donate. But they also, though, have things here for you to come and see. So, for example, on May 7th, they have the annual plant sale. You can also register for super cool classes like land stewardship and foraging and gardening.
Bow making. That piqued my interest. I think that would be a really fun workshop.
And I mean, heck, just come and volunteer, plant some trees, dig some weeds.
They can always use more hands.
Yep. So you may have heard of the York Imperial, but do you know what this is?
It's a history mystery. So it tastes like a mix between a mango and a banana, and it's custard-like, and it ripens in September and October. Dun, 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 the pawpaws.
Yay, pawpaws.
So pawpaws are native. The Native Americans ate them and used the fiber from the trees from the tree's bark for nets. Thomas Jefferson cultivated them at Monticello, even sending saplings to Europe, which were praised as an exceptional biological discovery in America. Upon the return from surveying America, Lewis and Clark depended on the pawpaws for survival. Since the fruit contained vitamin C, healthy fats, antioxidants, it's understandable how their expedition continued for 3 days, subsisting on only pawpaws. So, I mean, they're good, but I don't know if I'd want to eat them for 3 days straight.
Lewis and Clark survived on them.
So, I mean, that right there should put them in the American history, just, put them on a pedestal right there. Because, it's super important. And then even though it's rumored that chilled pawpaws were George Washington's favorite dessert, and that's like my favorite American general. So if they're good enough for George Washington, they're good enough for me, because he had the trees planted at Mount Vernon. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, throughout history, the pawpaws, even though people outside of York County act like they've never heard of them before.
I know, they're right here. And there are presidents that love them.
I know, and my neighbor grows them. And at the one church...
Your neighbor grows them?
Yes.
So my neighbor grows them.
We are neighbors. Our neighbor grows them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and at my one church that I go to, Paddletown Church, they have a little rummage sale every year, and there's a guy there that sells honey, and he gives out pawpaws for free. So he has too many...
Honey and pawpaws.
Yeah. So he's just pay for the honey, take the pawpaw for free.
I have a tiny story of pawpaws.
I like this story.
So I learned about pawpaws maybe 5 years ago, and it was because of the Horn Farm. They have a festival here every year where you can come and taste them, and they have various food stuff that you can have that have pawpaws in it. Right. And so it was interesting, though, that not very many people knew of pawpaws, knew that they existed. Is kind of this hidden gem of York County.
Because they're not mass produced.
Yeah. So. I mean, if you ask, if you stayed along with us to this point of the show, you should ask people, have you ever heard of a pawpaw? Have you ever even tasted a pawpaw? What it's like?
Them.
Yeah. So when I went on my first date with my husband-to-be, we went around Lake Redmond. We did a 5-mile loop around the Lake Redmond Loop. And we were jogging, kind of walking, because I didn't know this man, so I was getting to meet him in a safe environment that was outside in a public space, but also private enough to talk. And we go past a pawpaw grove area.
Very cool.
And I turned and very humbly say, do you know what this tree is? And he said, well, it looks like a pawpaw. And I turned and I was like, you know what a pawpaw is? I was like, how do you know what a pawpaw is? And he said, well, my family has a grove growing of pawpaws, and my brother made a custard or a bread last year.
Bread pudding.
Oh, okay, you know what a pawpaw is.
That's why they're getting married.
Pawpaws, guys. Yeah. Start a relationship. So pawpaws are unique because you can't just get them anywhere.
Yeah, they're not available in grocery stores. So plucking the wild fruit from the tree, it's more gratifying. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it's so much fun. Like you said, going out and getting your own eggs in the morning instead of going to the store and getting 12 eggs at a time. So it's fun to go outside to a pawpaw grove. And then harvesting and eating the pawpaws is a way to connect yourself to something ancient. It's primal. You're hiking in the woods. You're identifying a source of nutrients. And most of the fruits and vegetables we eat today are genetically modified, so GMO. So it's not the same plant. Right. But pawpaws are still, they haven't been altered at all. They're the same pawpaw that Lewis and Clark ate. Which
or
is
George
really
Washington.
Cool.
Or, you can go eat. And there are groves around York County. I did give away a secret location at Lake Williams. Oh, no. But you have to be able to run out there and see what it looks like. This is our production manager, Jim. Jim, wave to everybody.
I've been waiting for Jim to just like pop up in the middle of an episode. This is such a pandemic Zoom moment.
We should do a Where's Wally, Where's Jim?
Where's Jim? If you can spot Jim, we'll give you a prize. But back to the story. So they're really difficult to mass produce, and companies have tried, but they're too perishable.
Yeah.
So I was considering them the avocado of York
That's
County.
cool.
But avocados, they're mass produced, but I think they're a little temperamental. Sometimes they're ripe too fast. Sometimes they don't ripen fast enough. I feel like you wait one day too long.
Yeah, and you never
avocado-
know. You gotta cut into it and you're like, what will it be?
Yeah, so I feel like that's kind of how the pawpaw is. It's a little temperamental, but it's worth it. So, you know, the Horn Farm is here redefining agricultural and growing a community of skilled land stewards, which is what we want in York County.
And their pawpaws here. And again, festival will hopefully be in September.
Yeah.
So the takeaways of our lesson for tonight is we're hoping that you can see that York County has a long history of growing things.
Yes.
Agriculture is our past, and we're still largely an agriculturally based community today. We have been innovative with our York Imperial apple, finding something new and then taking it and running with it and ending, like I said, changing the nation because of it. The Three Sisters shows how we can grow things in harmony with one another, and how we don't always have to be in competition, that we can grow things that will actually help each other grow, as Domi went through with the Three Sisters. And then finally, these pawpaws and the connection with nature and taking care of the land and having something that's super ancient and primitive.
Right. So I hope you guys, you know, you learned something. That's what we want from every episode, and we hope you enjoyed it. And our next episode is going to be on May 24th at the Creek House, and we're going to be talking about railroads, and it's open to the public. Tonight we couldn't have any public with us, so we're only live streaming, but you can come see us in person. We'll still be Facebook live streaming at 7 o'clock that night. And stay tuned. In about 10 minutes, we're going to talk to Zach Rooston for our extra episode. So we hope to see you soon.
Awesome. And go on YouTube if you want to watch more of our videos. So bye, guys.
Bye.